Hey, it's Meg. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be working in my No Sew November journal. So I'm going to be working on the last week of the prompts and sort of dotting around here and there in this journal. So we're going to do some mixed media, we're going to do some collage. We're also going to decorate the cover of this journal as well, which I'm really pleased with the way that it turned out. So I've got quite a lot in this video to show you of how I've been working in this journal, so maybe you might want to grab a tea or a coffee and your own journal and join me as I work in this. I've kept this real time as well, so you can see how long it takes me to do some of these spreads, because I was really trying to do some different techniques with this as well. So like we're starting off here with some ink. So this was my take on the prompt of spiral. So I had to do a lot of thinking about what I wanted to do for spiral, because I really wanted to have a response that fit with the style that I'm used to working in with my journal. Because when I was brainstorming what I wanted to do, so sometimes I'll just literally grab a page in my notebook and just sort of like jot down any ideas that I have for the page. The ideas that I was coming up with were cool, but not things that I thought would fit within my journal, if that makes sense. So I was thinking about like how could I fit it in maybe as a composition, or how could I fit it in with materials. So I was thinking about like, like thread and string and having that sort of 3D effect on the page. And I thought, I wasn't really sure whether that was something that would work on a journal like this. I think I was being extra cautious as well, because this has turned out to be a really chunky journal. Even though there's not many pages in it, because I've, added in the mini journals and have quite a lot going on here. I wanted to make sure that I didn't add even more chunkiness to the journal. So one of the things I was also thinking about with these prompts was how could I work them into elements that are more of a background. So what I decided to do for spiral here is I used this ink to add some like spiraling leaves almost. So it's a way that I've sort of blended it into something that I might normally add on a page. Like this is something I've done previously in my journals, but I just sort of used the prompt as a way to almost do a bit of a twist on how I would normally add them. So you can see there I kind of did the base of a loose spiral shape, and then I used the ink to add the leaves onto that. So normally I would just sort of do a bit of a like a wave almost across the page. So I decided to use that spiral, like I said, as more of a way of doing a composition. So the ink that I'm using is Daler Rowney, and this shade is called Antelope Brown, and I really love this shade, especially on brown paper. So this is, as you can see, just a brown paper bag, and it's a lovely like greeny brown, and the way that it dries is honestly my favorite. Like if I could recommend that you buy any ink, I would definitely suggest this one, because I just love the colour of it, and it is a little bit fiddly to use. You kind of have to get the hang of using it from the dropper if you wanted to do it like this, but I kind of like the way that the lines aren't all uniform, and you get some areas of like splotchiness and some areas that are a little bit more scratchy from the ink dropper itself. And I just really love the way that it looks on pages like this, and because I was enjoying this so much, I decided to carry it across onto one of the other pages here. So embracing the way that a no-sew like accordion style format works, and just sort of using this as a way to join two of these pages together. And I really like the way that this layout looks and how it kind of carries across both of the pages, and the way that the ink has such an impact as well on the cream or like more white background as well. It really pops, but in such a nice way that isn't as harsh as, like, say if I'd used a black ink on it. It's a lot more subtle in that way. So it's just a really great neutral colour to use on a page if you're using this sort of colour scheme. And that was the final result there for the ink. And what I decided to do, because I didn't want to add anything more on top of it, like I felt like that was almost impactful enough without covering anything up. And oftentimes I do backgrounds where I add things and then I'm like, oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter if it's covered up because it's part of the process and you can still see things like peeking through. But for this, I definitely wanted to just let that speak for itself and be the main focal point of the page. So I had this quote here that I'd cut out from a magazine. I'm often cutting bits out or saving things down from like Pinterest, or if I see them on Instagram, and using like snippets like this within my journal. And I thought that this quote was perfect, so I had it set aside because it's about like autumn, and I thought, well, this is the time of year where I want to use it. But then it ended up being like perfect for this page in particular, I think, because the way that I'd done the leaves, it almost had like a branch look to it as well. And so it really matched the quote that I ended up using. So it kind of came full circle and all worked together, even though it was not something I'd planned. I literally just had this set aside on my desk and I thought, well, that will be perfect to use for this page. So I just cut it down to size here. So I wanted to include it just on the right hand side here of the page. And so I just chopped the words down so that they would fit onto this page. And I actually really like the contrast here of the black and white for the text and how that stands out from the brown background, because even though I love to use brown papers within my journal pages, sometimes I find that if I'm using like too many, there almost becomes like a lack of contrast on my pages. So I've been working a lot, I think, on recent pages to find that balance between having the almost like rustic and like the warmth of the brown papers, I guess, against using collage papers that are also a lot more like light and airy. That was something that I found with the envelope journal that I made. So I used just parchment envelopes for that. I'll link down below. I did a video all about it, and for that collage, I ended up just using like lighter papers, and even though it still had that sort of scrappy feel to it, it was a lot more spacious almost in terms of how I was visualizing then being able to work on it. And sometimes I think it's better to do that and then I can add my brown papers, and then other times I just feel like I have to commit and go like the whole page, like either the whole half of the page or like the full spread needs to be devoted to the brown paper. And then I think, in an instance like this, we get the full effect then of letting that paper sort of speak for itself. I really love the way that I've got this little pocket here on the inside of the journal. So that's where I've tucked in the zine from week 3. And I've just added a piece of washi tape there at the moment as a closure to keep that secure, but I would love to add something that's a little bit more secure. So if you have any suggestions for me about what I could use to have as a closure, I was thinking maybe like some faux buttons and a way of doing like sort of a string closure, something like that, but I wasn't quite sure. So let me know what you think in the comments. What should I add for that? Because the poor piece of washi tape is not going to hold, but I just wanted to add it there for now just so that the zine wouldn't fall out of the journal. But I do really like it as a pocket. So now I'm going to move on to another couple of the prompts from this week. So I decided to do a bit of a combination one here, and I was using the prompt of interact and layer to steer the way that I was working on this page, and it ended up just being a little pocket tip in that ends up being also sewn to the page. You'll see how it all kind of comes out, but I just had this glassine envelope that somebody had sent me, and I decided to turn it upside down so that you could see the like beautiful hand lettering almost as a bit of a ghosted layer behind the pocket, and then I layered some collage on top, so just some like book papers here. You can see I'm sort of testing which ones to use, and I decided to go for a lot more like warmer neutrals here, and also crumpled some of the papers to add a bit of texture to this as well, because I felt like it was feeling a little bit flat. So an easy way to add texture to your page is to just take the papers that you're already adding as your collage and just to crumple them up a little bit, and it just adds a little something extra to your collage cluster. And I also added a bit of floral here with this scrapbook paper, so I just added that with some torn edges, and then decided to do a bit of a clashing patterns moment with this washi tape as well. It's just sort of pink with some stars on it, and you can see there how the text still shows through on the reverse, but you can't see it there on, well, I suppose it's the back of the pocket actually, but when I was laying it out, to me it was feeling like the front of the pocket. So you can see there, that's where I added just a piece of paper here with some stamping on. And I think because I'd got into the idea that that was the front of the pocket, you'll see in a moment that I ended up actually attaching this to the page itself. So it kind of went through a phase of, it was a tip in with a pocket, and then it's become a pocket that is stitched in on the middle of the page, but I also only stitched it down one side, so I stitched it down the left hand side, which means that technically I could add something underneath as a almost belly band-esque sort of slotting something in, if you see what I mean. If I added it on the top, it would kind of tuck in, but I probably won't add something in, but I guess that's a possibility. And just as I'm watching it back now, I'm thinking I could actually tuck something in. Like I could have like a large tag maybe and tuck that in underneath, and maybe secure it in with a paper clip or something so that it doesn't just obviously fall out the other end of the pocket. So I guess what I've made here is a weird Frankenstein version of a tip-in that is also a double pocket, or what would you call this? Like, is it a pocket that has a, does it class it as a tuck spot, or is it a, it's not quite a belly band, is it? Because a belly band is like where it's, or to me, it's where it's like long and vertical, but this is almost just like horizontal across the page. So I'm not quite sure what you'd call this. I guess it's a tuck spot. Let me know down below what you would call this. But just as I'm watching myself back making it now, I'm like, yeah, I've made some sort of very interactive page here for sure that I can definitely continue to work on. So I didn't actually fill up the entirety of this journal because I sized up to be able to add in the mini journals. So I didn't have enough to include on all of the pages. So I'm definitely going to be continuing to work in this journal and, you know, come back to it and add bits in. And I think that's definitely okay for a challenge like this to not have that pressure of, oh, I've got to finish like every single prompt and fill up an entire journal. Like, that's not what I set out to do with this challenge. I just wanted it to be a super relaxed way to be able to work in a no-sew journal, and I've really enjoyed the past month creating in this, and I hope if you have joined in with any or all of the No Sew November challenge that you have enjoyed it too, because it's not something that I've done before, and so I just wanted to see how it went, and it was also just an excuse for me to create a new journal every week for 4 weeks, because who doesn't like creating new journals, right? So I decided to use the last couple of prompts from this challenge, which were overlay and fasten, to apply to the cover of this journal, because I've used a altered book sort of style, in the sense that I've used the book covers as my cover for the journal. So I didn't want to decorate this in like the traditional sense where, I might just completely cover up the cover and add something different onto it. I wanted to play into the fact that it is an altered book, and so I wanted to maintain the gold like lettering that I had on the front cover and work around that. So for overlay, I decided to use some rub-on stickers here. These are from Tapology, and I added them to the front cover. So I was just sort of looking to see which ones I wanted to use, and I just added a couple of them, and I sort of went around the edge of the lettering, and when I placed them on, I kind of tried to not cover up the entirety of them, but almost visualize that there was a square box or a rectangular box around the text, and sort of having them as a bit of a frame almost. So they do cover up, elements of the text. Like, the point wasn't so that you could, like, word for word, like letter for letter, read what was going on, but I wanted it to obviously still be visible and sort of like blend in with the cover. So I was actually inspired to do this because earlier in the week I had put some rub-on stickers on my Hobonichi weeks that I'd got, and so I'd been feeling brave and thought maybe I can add these onto like a fabric cover because I'd used them previously on fabric. And I will say you do have to like press really firmly and go really slowly and just be patient with it, because obviously you want to make sure that it adheres like really smoothly and it doesn't peel up. So you do have to take your time when you're adding rub-on stickers to a surface like this, but they do sit really nicely and blend into the cover. And I really like the fact that they are matte as well, so they're not shiny in the sense like a sticker would be. And they definitely do like blend in and feel like they are part of the journal. So here's just my Hobonichi weeks I'm just showing you here. Now, this does look very yellow on camera, but it's actually green. I'm not sure why it's picking up as being bright yellow. I promise I don't own a bright yellow notebook. It's more of a, I think it's called a pistachio colour, which is still very bright, but not yellow. I don't know why it's reading as yellow on the camera, but you can see here I'm applying the rub-on and I'm just being very, very like gentle and patient with it, just to make sure that I've got it secured like around all of the edges as well. So I'll often like rub a little area and then sort of peel it back and check that it has like stuck correctly, and then slowly peel off the rest of the plastic backing. And I was just playing around here with how I wanted the different elements to sit, and I'm kind of showing you here the way that I decided where to put this floral piece is that I had one of the leaves sort of anchored onto the G of garden there. And I don't know, that's such a small thing, but I feel like it really helped it to blend in with the lettering. So rather than it feeling like I'd completely just stuck something over the top, it felt like it was a little bit more part of the design. So that was just like a small thing that kind of went through my mind as I was adding that to the cover and deciding where I wanted to put it. But I really love how like sweet and romantic this kind of makes the cover. I also pulled out a couple of other rub-on stickers here. As you can see, I've got loads of them. I love to use all sorts of rub-on stickers within my journals. They're such a versatile and, non-bulky thing to add to your journal. And so I wanted to also have a piece of like foliage, because I thought that maybe having 3 flowers might be too much, but I knew I still wanted like a third element in terms of having, like the rule of three where you put three things together. So I opted just for like a like grayish green like leaf pattern, and I just popped that on the bottom of underneath where it said flowers, and I think that that complemented it really nicely. It didn't detract too much, and I think it kind of helped to finish off the entire layout. So I didn't go too overboard with decorating like all of the cover. I just focused it on around the gold foiling of the text there and kept it very minimal because I was really worried about like going too overboard with the cover, because even though there's not like a huge design on the front, like it's just plain like dark blue, I wanted to keep that look so that it still looks like a book, if you know what I mean. Like I didn't want to detract too much from that. But what I also did was I grabbed my white Uniball Signo pen, and I thought that it might be quite nice to add some detailing to just a few of the areas. So this is something that if you've been here for a while, you know that I add to, I think, pretty much all of my journal pages. I don't think that a single journal page has passed me by where I haven't added at least some portion of white pen to it. So I just added a few little like dots and stars, like really subtle around the areas just to fill in some of the gaps. And I think that it finished it off really nicely and just had that extra little pop of something on the cover, as you can see there. So the last prompt for No So November is fasten, and I thought that this would be perfect as a final prompt because to me it was something for like a closure for my journal. Like how could I add a fastening to it that would tie everything together? So I wanted to add like some ribbon or some lace to this journal and have that be the fastening for this journal. And I have a couple here that I picked out from my stash and I wasn't quite sure which one to go for. So I have this black one here that I also used on one of the tags that I did. So that's kind of why I was thinking about using this, because I know it's like quite a harsh color to use for this, but I was thinking, oh, maybe it kind of matches with the other places where I've used it within this journal, and maybe, having that contrast might be quite nice. But then I do also have this other piece of like lace or ribbon, I guess, that is like quite unique, quite different. It's like little oval like roses or little flowers, I guess. And I have been hoarding this for the longest time. I can't even tell you. I've been thinking like I need to save it for the perfect project, and I wasn't quite sure when I would use it. So I'd love to know which one you think I should go for. I'm kind of leaning towards the little ovals because I think they look really sweet on the cover, and I'm just showing you here how I was going to add them in if I did. So I peeled up some of the inside of where I'd stuck the paper bag, and then I've tucked one of the ovals inside, and I'm gonna get my hot glue gun, I think, just to make sure that that would be like fully secured within there. Like I don't think my regular like washi tape or glue stick would hold that. And that way then I can use it as a like wrap around rather than tying a bow, because I obviously can't tie a bow with the lace like this, but I thought that that might look nice on the cover. So let me know down below in the comments which one you think I should go for, or maybe I should do something completely different if you've got a different idea. But that is everything that I have created in this journal for No So November. So I hope that you have enjoyed joining me for this fun little challenge this month. Let me know maybe what your favorite prompt was or what your favorite page was that you created. But I've loved seeing everyone's pages like on Instagram and on YouTube. So Yeah, I hope you've had fun with it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.